Hi, I'm Boris, Product Manager for Gardena Pumps. Today I would like to show you all our submersible pumps. So what is this exactly? Submersible pumps are of course used submerged or minimum partly submerged, that they can work. So it's not self-sucking. This kind of pumps must be definitely differentiated against submersible pressure pump, because we have two main figures on a pump. So one is flow, which means how many liters per hour can be transported. On the other hand, we have pressure, which means to which height can the pump transport the water. In case of classical submersible pumps, these pumps are oriented fully on flow, which means you want to get rid of any water as fast as possible. For example, when your cellar is flooded, you want to get out this water as fast as possible. These kind of pumps have a flow rate up to 25,000 liters per hour. On the other hand, the flow is quite low, the pressure is quite low, which means we have a maximum head height here of 11 meters, which is similar to 1.1 bar in maximum on the biggest version. To compare to the submersible pressure pumps, these kind of pumps have a pressure up to 6 bar, which means 60 meters of head height. On the other hand, these kind of pumps can just transport 2,000 to maximum 5,000 liters per hour. So this is why this kind of pumps is perfect to get some water out of a cellar, to empty a pool or a pond as fast as possible, but it's not made for irrigation purposes, especially when it comes to a shower or a sprinkler. Therefore, the pressure is not high enough. So due to this fact, the hose is quite important for the pump. As you can see, we have quite huge hose connectors here on this kind of pumps. It's also possible to connect a classical garden hose with the G1 thread if available on the pump. But the target should always be to use it as big as possible to have the maximum flow out of the pump. In the next graphic I will shortly explain you the reason why. So in this graphic you can see a classical pump performance curve. On the left side you can see the head height of the pump, which is here in the maximum 0.7 bar. This is equal to 7 meters of head height. On the lower line you can see the maximum flow rate of the pump. For this pump this is 11,000 liters per hour. So depending on the head height, the flow is lower. So let's imagine in our example we want to discharge the water from a pond outside to 1 meters of height. So in this case, theoretically, the pump will have about 9,800 liters per hour. So let's have a look to the hose, which is quite important. So classically in a garden you have a half-inch garden hose, which is equal to 13 millimeters. So let's imagine we will use 5 meters of such a hose on this pump. So this will create so many pressure loss that we will lose round about 7 meters, which is always almost the limit of the pump. So at the end you will have a flow rate which is lower than 100 liters per hour. So let's have a look to the next bigger size, which is the 3/4 inch hose, 19 millimeters. With this hose you will have around about 3,200 liters per hour. With the next bigger size, 25 millimeters, which is 1 inch, you will have 7,800 liters per hour. And the next bigger one, which is 38 millimeters, 1.5 inch, you will have around 9,500 liters, which is almost the maximum at this height. So what you can see here, the hose is really important to get the maximum performance out of your pump. So please invest in a really good and big hose, and it's better to keep a smaller pump model and invest in a better hose. Gardena has now more than 40 years of experience in developing pumps. Of course, our new range of submersible pumps is also fully equipped with several innovations. So let's start with the new Aquasensor system. So here you can see there's a sensor system on the back which is working fully digital with a capacitive system to clearly and especially really precise detect the water level, and you can switch and choose the levels you want to have the pump to be on or off. I will warmly recommend you another video where we also explain this system in detail. In addition, we have a new hose quick connector. Like you heard before, the hose diameter is really important, and we know that people love to use garden hoses because of our Gardena click system. So with the new system we have a new quick connector system also for huge hose diameters. So you can connect 1.5 inch or 2 inch hoses to this, secure it with a hose clamp, and then you can easily click it in, and to get it out, just push these two buttons and you can get it released. The sealing system of a pump is quite important for the lifetime, as it protects the motor against the water. So what you can see in this picture is our sealing system for the new premium pumps. The system comes with a stainless steel shaft, which is especially ceramic coated in the important area. This brings extra robustness and mechanical resistance. In addition, it has 3 different sealing rings, which is especially filled with a lubricant to avoid any water passages to the motor. So this brings the maximum in lifetime, which we can guarantee with a warranty extension to 5 years on registration. So submersible pumps are divided in 2 different groups. So on one hand we have clear water submersible pumps, and on the other hand we have dirty water submersible pumps. Here in front of me is a clear water pump. So this has the main benefit that it can suck down the water on the absolute maximum. So our pumps can reach down to 1 millimeters of water residues. So we call this wipe dry result. So you suck out all the water and then you go over with your wiper and then it's dry. So here you can see the impeller of a clear water pump. It can move a lot of water with a little bit more pressure than a dirty water pump. It's also slightly flat, which means it's much easier for such a rotor to de-aerate. So as a matter of fact, this kind of pumps can start with really low water levels. So our pumps can start from 5 millimeters of water level, which is really low. So it's the perfect pump if you want to keep the water level as low as possible. So for example, if you have a cellar where some groundwater gets up continuously, you can protect your cellar against flood damages because it will keep the water level as low as possible. A clear water pump is really easy to indicate because it has no big openings on the bottom. All you have is a really little gap where the water can be sucked in. So therefore, if you want to use this pump with maximum performance, especially when you have high water levels like in a fully filled pool, so it's better to lift it up slightly to get a more and better performance. Our premium models come with this special flow boost flaps. So just plug them in. This will rise the pump 5 millimeters, which will boost your performance tremendously. Only if you want to reach the maximum flat suction, which is 1 millimeter, so you can easily switch these flaps in the last part to this level. The pump will suck down to the lowest position. So what is clear water in this context? So I think a clear water pump is a bit misleading because the main benefit of such a pump is the flat suction. It can of course handle also slightly dirty water. Technically we are talking about 5 millimeters of grain size. So even if it's a muddy brew in our eyes, the pump can handle it. So it's just necessary to choose a dirty water pump in case you expect a high amount of dirt, a high amount of gravel. For example, if you have a flood from a river or you want to empty a construction pit. So what flat suction means in reality, we can now see in this experiment. We have here a little aquarium where we can pump out the water into this basin. To highlight also the handling of dirt particles, I have this little balls here with 10 millimeters, which is higher than the 5 millimeter the pump can handle, and I will throw a few of them into this aquarium. So let's start a pump and see what will happen. So what you have seen here is that the pump has almost evacuated the water completely. So just a little water residue is left, which is the wiped dry result. On the other hand, all the dirt particles are still in there and more or less around the pump. So this means if you expect a huge amount of dirt, the clear water pump is not the right solution because it will be blocked really quick. So in this case, I would recommend the dirty water pump. But as long as you want to reach flat suction, the lowest possible water result, the clear water pump is the right solution for you. So let's come to our dirty water pumps. So you can easily indicate a dirty water pump by the huge openings on the bottom, which allows the pump to suck in huge particles up to 38 millimeters, depending on the size of the pump. For example, gravel, rest of plants, etc. So this also ensures that the pump can work really robust. It's not that sensitive for dirt, so it's not that fast congested like a dirty water pump. On the other hand, if you compare the dirty water impeller to the clear water impeller, it's higher and it's not that amount of rotors, which means it cannot handle air in that way like a clear water pump, and it is a higher hydraulic system, which means the pump can start only on a higher water level, which is usually 5 millimeters above the maximum grain size. So depending on the grain size, it's between 30 and 42 millimeters of water level, which is necessary to start a pump. So how this looks like and how the pump can handle particles, we will now do our experiment once again. So here I have the dirty water pump 9000, our smallest model, also with a quite small hose, which is 1 inch. So this is the absolute minimum you should take care about. Remember this hose part at the beginning. So also important, if you have huge grain sizes, like 38 millimeters, of course, it must also pass the hose. So please choose a proper hose diameter once again. So what you can see now is that the pump has almost evacuated all dirt particles which went into the pump. On the other hand, you can see a quite huge water residue, which is in this case 25 millimeters, which is the maximum grain size of the pump, which is left behind. So in this case it's slightly higher because a bit of water went back through the hose. For those who want to combine both benefits of a clear and dirty water pump, I would like to introduce to you our newest member in the submersible pump family. It's our 2-in-1 or combi pump. So this pump combines both functionalities. So now you can see this turquoise bottom, which means it has huge openings. It can work as a classical dirty water pump with up to 35 millimeters in grain size. If I want to reach flat suction now, it's quite easy to switch the functionality. All you need to do is to push this button, push it down, and then it has a low button, which means flat suction down to a wipe dry result of 1 millimeter. If I want to switch it back to dirty water mode, this is also quite easy. All I need to do is to lift the pump, push the button, and it's a dirty water pump once again. So I never need to touch this bottom area, so I won't get any dirty fingers or dirty shoes, so it's quite comfortable. Important to know is that for this pump we use also such a dirty water impeller. So it's necessary to move the big particles of 35 millimeters. As a matter of fact, the minimum water level is slightly higher than a classical clear water pump. But at the end it's a really good combination of both worlds, especially for those who are not sure what the pump will be used for later on, or also if you have a mixed application, one time dirty water, one time clear water. So it's a really nice solution maybe for you. So in a nutshell, what we have heard is there are clear water pumps, dirty water pumps, and combined dirty and clear water pumps like this one. So the clear water pump can suck down the water on the absolute maximum for a wipe dry result. On the other hand, it can start quite early and it can handle air a bit better. The dirty water pump is the more robust pump. It's used especially when you expect huge grain sizes, a lot of dirt. It's not that sensitive on too much dirt in the suction area. On the other hand, the combined pump can handle both worlds, flat suction, huge grain sizes. The only disadvantage against a clear water pump is a slightly higher starting level. What we heard at the beginning is that these pumps have a really high performance, so they have a huge pump volume. But on the other hand, they have a quite low head height. This means you definitely need to use a huge hose diameter. So I warmly recommend to buy a huge one, and then you get the full performance back of your pump. For those who are afraid of the storage of a huge hose, I can also recommend our new lay flat hose, which is a 38mm hose, 1.5 inch, which can be stored in this format. So this is 10 meters of hose, which is big enough for full performance. So wish you all the best, and I'm looking forward to see you soon with the next video.
Realize your gardening dreams. Gardena.